definitely.
Gang, it's the height of the calamity, and it's so bad.
It's so bad.
Hello everyone, my name is Luna, and today I'm here to break down everything that happened and all the juicy lore in episode 1 of Exandria Unlimited Divergence. This video is brought to you by my patrons. Thank you so much to all of my patrons, and welcome to new patrons Arnold and Holly Mack, and thank you everyone so much for your lovely supportive comments about me quitting my day job in my last video. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up to my Patreon for $2 a month at patreon.com/Luboffin. So what is the Divergence? If you're just jumping into Critical Role for this series, let me fill you in on this period of Exandria's history. So over 1,000 years ago from the present day in Exandria, the world was ravaged by a centuries-long war between the prime deities and the betrayer gods. Cities were destroyed, the landscape was torched, and 2/3 of mortal civilization perished. Following all this violence and destruction, the prime deities came to the conclusion that their presence on Exandria was causing more harm to their children than good, and so they agreed to leave Exandria behind and create the Divine Gate, a barrier between the mortal realm and the gods' realms. They were still able to bestow magic and divine gifts upon their followers, however their ability to intervene in the world and walk upon it came to an end. This event is called the Divergence, and it signaled the end of the Age of Arcanum. Some of the gods disagreed with the creation of the Divine Gate, and we saw some of them struggling with this idea in the events of Downfall, which took place during the Calamity.
It will not last unless we close the door behind us.
This is the only home I've ever known.
This was ours.
This miniseries begins right before the Divergence occurs, and the players are playing level 0 characters using NPC stat blocks rather than full character sheets, which is such a fantastic way of really getting us into the eyes of the common people that this war has so disastrously affected. It's also a somewhat refreshing change from the high-level combat and the massive story that we've been following in Campaign 3. In that story, they've been making huge, world-shattering choices, but really, despite playing level 0 characters, these characters in Divergence are still faced with huge decisions. They may not be decisions that affect the fate of the entire world, but they are decisions which affect that character's entire world. So the game begins in Ruyad Kol, the bastion of the Strife Emperor, who, I guess it's pretty clear, is a betrayer god whose domain is tyranny, conquest, and warfare. He is worshipped by many goblin folk, in some cases compelled to by something called the Curse of Strife, a curse created by the Strife Emperor which allows him to speak into their minds and direct them to follow evil actions and continue his legacy and domain. The Curse of Strife is explored in the Reslayer's Take, which is a podcast series from Critical Role. The air above Ruyad Kol is choked with fire and ash, and the sun has not shone here for over 100 years. It is pretty bleak. Brennan begins the game with...
Hope is a dangerous thing.
There has been a lot of speculation about what this starting word would be, following an ongoing joke between Brennan, Matt, and Abria.
Fire. Water.
Earth.
Light.
This feels like kind of an end to that joke in a way because it doesn't quite follow the same pattern, and honestly I'm kind of glad because I don't know, I feel like it would add a lot of pressure for that opening monologue to do something that, maybe doesn't fit with the story just to carry the joke on. This felt like a nod to the joke while also maybe allowing them to move on from it. The person speaking about hope is Asmog, the Sundering Lord, a vampiric hobgoblin who rules the Steel Keep here in Ruyad Kol. He is speaking to thousands of prisoners shackled on their knees, publicly punishing a hobgoblin elder who has been caught secretly worshipping one of the prime deities, the Changebringer.
If pain is what you feel, then it is the comfort of despair you must seek. Surrendering hope is the only balm you will ever know.
Asmog says that soon the Strife Emperor's armies will march out and 3 prime deities, the Allhammer, the Platinum Dragon, and the Moonweaver are dead. As viewers, we know from the lore that this is false propaganda, but for the prisoners here who have no contact with the outside world, this would obviously seem true. Asmog commands the Elder to repent his worship of the Changebringer, and he refuses until Asmog threatens his family. The Elder begins to repent, calling out that the Changebringer is not coming, but Asmog eviscerates him anyway before ordering the prisoners to get back to work. We move to the quarry where we meet Matthew Mercer's character Garan. He is an elder dwarf with a long, tangled beard and hair and deep-set wrinkles, and an amputated left arm which is capped with a bit of iron slag. He has been in this prison for a long time, so long that he has forgotten memories of his life. He can't even remember his family name. As he works, almost passing out with exhaustion, he hears a voice in his mind.
Dad? Papa, turn around. Where are you?
No. Keep working.
He hears the sounds of a family gathering behind him. His family, a memory of his life from before, and he can't help himself. He turns to see his son Dari, telling him to put down his tools and to come enjoy the spoils of his hard work. He is swept up in the embrace of his family. He laughs with his brother. He sits with a grandchild in his lap who asks why they are stonemasons.
We're good with our hands. It means sure that wherever we find home, we have a place to put our heads down, to keep you and your mother and the rest of us safe. A place with a warm fire. And that is something worth fighting for. Something worth working for. Maybe one day I'll show you how to properly carve this beautiful and rich Exandrian land into what your mind's eye can see. Something that'll last far after you're gone.
Garan's family lives in Uthtor, a huge dwarven city within the Cliffkeep Mountains of Taldori, or as it was known at this time, Gwassar. This warm memory of home and family shifts into their voices calling out once again, this time in fear, and Garan wakes on the ground being kicked in the stomach by a goblin enforcer called Kuzzle, having passed out from exhaustion. Kuzzle berates him, and Garan says he's just tired and in need of water, and in retaliation, his water is given to another prisoner. With a natural 20, despite his injuries, Garan pulls himself to his feet and continues to work. Meanwhile, Rainier, a dark-skinned woman with white silver locks played by Celia Rose Gooding, makes her way through the pit. She is a nurse, and while she cannot heal because she doesn't have the resources or the time to do so, she is trying to preserve, trying to ensure that the prisoners working can survive another day. She spots Garan working through his injury and comes over to help, despite his protestations. The enforcer Kuzzle arrives.
Ah, me, pleasure to have you down here in the pit again.
Hi, Kuzzle. You're doing a number.
Well, you gotta keep rowdy ones like this one in line.
You make my job so easy, Kuzzle. Thank you.
We knock them down, you set them up.
And Kuzzle agrees to let Nia take Garan to the mop, the evocative name given to the infirmary where mainly they just mop people up. Nia hates interacting with Kuzzle in this sort of, collegial way, but it is the only way that she can do the work she needs to do. Garan continues to protest that he doesn't need help, but she tells him that if he dies, she is the one who will be blamed, so he needs to look after himself to look after her, to which he reluctantly agrees. Garan then asks Rainier how she is.
I'm tired. I'm angry. I'm sick of waiting and waiting. I keep my hope quiet, but I will never let them take it from me. Change is coming. Change is coming.
It's clear Garan does not believe her, and it's got to be so heartbreaking from his perspective. We get the impression that he has been in this prison for decades, maybe more than 100 years, and the amount of times he must have seen people's hopes and dreams get cut down, the people that he's seen die, the times he's come close to death himself, it is just no wonder that he has no hope left. We move to another part of the Steel Keep, the slop, the kitchens where prisoners are making a foul stew in massive crucibles thick with decades-old crust. It's there when a skeletal hand is found in the crust of the crucible that we meet Jasmine Don's character, Fedra.
Yeah, no, I was wondering where that went. Well, I mean, I don't know, just throw it back in. Bones that's more flavor, right?
Well, I think this probably just tastes like ash now.
It all tastes like ash. Just throw it in.
I don't... all right, should I tell anyone about this?
No, why would you tell Otto? It's fine.
All right.
We don't have to tell anyone about anything.
Fedra is a small and scrawny but tough halfling woman with red hair and 2 pigtails. She has a tattoo of a cockroach on her shoulder, and we learn that she is the leader of a gang here in the kitchens, the Roaches, whose members all have a cockroach tattoo. One member of their gang, a dragonborn called Crocus, has been taken by the guards, and Fedra doesn't know why. She learns the reason though when she is visited by a bugbear guard called Archerus Blix. He tells her that Crocus was rounded up along with other dragonborn as an offering to another betrayer god, the Scaled Tyrant. Some of these dragonborn will serve on the front lines in the Scaled Tyrant's armies, and the others are being brought to it for sacrifice and devouring. It's clear that Fedra has quite a bit of influence here in the prisons and knows a lot of information, which she uses to lean on Archerus when he threatens to report her for having contraband glasses.
I say, listen, Atris, listen, you and I, we know each other. We're we know a lot about each other, I think. You have a lot of information about me, I have a lot of information about you, so why can't two old friends just have a nice little drink and chat for a little bit? Before, things get crazy, as they can do.
You see, as you say that, he goes, all right, yeah, we know a lot about each other, instrument.
We do.
The information that she has on Arturus is that he is a secret follower of the Lord of the Hells, and he has been making reports to the Lord about what the Strife Emperor is up to. And this is just a great reminder that because the Prime Deities are working together, it doesn't mean that the Betrayer Gods are doing the same. They may work together in some cases, but ultimately they would prefer to be the only ruler of Exandria. Arturus tells Fedra that Crocus's caravan will be heading out in the morning, and the only way to get him out would be to convince the guards that he has something contagious or to get him thrown into an oubliette. Arturus leaves and another person arrives, Lady Cyrulia, a woman in black robes with grey skin and sharp fish-like teeth. She tells Fedra that they have some visiting guests and will need some nicer food for a dinner tonight in the High Tower. Fedra says she will make the arrangements. Once Lady Cyrulia leaves, Fedra gathers the roaches and they decide to recruit Nia to help with convincing the guards that Crocus is sick. We then move over to the Halls of Parting, where two enormous iron carriages are set. Inside are several dragonborn chained to the walls. One is Ero Morta Urim, played by Liam O'Brien. He is an older dragonborn in tattered travelling clothes, and he has gold scales, but it's hard to tell that they're gold because they are covered in a thick layer of grime, and he also has a large scar across his neck and throat. Sitting across from him is a huge muscly dragonborn with rough jagged scales which are white but also shift into black. He has lots of scars for someone so young. He is just entering adulthood. This is Crocus, played by Alexander Ward.
And he's sitting there staring forward with a kind of look where he's not registering what's around him and his eyes are fully dilated in this just kind of panicked stasis, not knowing what to do, not knowing anybody around him.
Inside the carriage is Captain Rusgut, a fearsome-looking dwarf, and he tells the group that they are destined for the Scaled Tyrant. The chromatic dragons, like Crocus, will serve in the Tyrant's armies, but the metallic ones will be devoured. For context, there are two kinds of dragons in Exandria and also in D&D lore. Chromatic, which are solid-coloured and are often categorised as sort of evil, and metallic dragons, which are often characterised as good. The Scaled Tyrant has 5 dragon heads, all chromatic. At the announcement of the metallic dragonborns being devoured, a bronze dragonborn called Barthus begins to protest, saying that he is a servant of the Scaled Tyrant, an envoy, and he gave up information about other metallic dragonborn and was promised a reward in exchange. He basically sold out his own kind. As he frantically yells, Ero speaks to him.
Conserve your energy. We are all certainly to die. Everyone. We may have one chance. Breathe. Wait. Don't stand out.
There are other dragonborn in the carriage, including a blue dragonborn mother with 2 young hatchlings, whispering to them and trying to comfort them in this terrifying situation, and a green dragonborn called Coswald who tries to help reassure the children as well. Look, I know it's realistic to have kids in these stories, but why are you always going to hit me with the damn kids? Meanwhile, back at the mop, Nia is doing her best to tend to Garan when a strange creature enters, a man who used to be a man but now has a magically stretched skull, an extra pair of arms, and a cloak made of bones. This is Barbathrix, who tells Nia there are prisoners here who won't recover, and rather than wasting resources trying to help them, they will need to be killed. He is accompanied by Rufus, who does a kind of cost-benefits analysis of Garan.
Yes, I'm familiar with this prisoner, my lord. This is Garan. He's been with us since before I was here, quite some time. He is of advanced age and his left arm incapacitated, but his skill in the quarry is greater than that of even some more able-bodied prisoners. However, if he were to be sick for more than 5½ days, the cost of maintaining him would outweigh keeping him alive. And you see that Barbara...
Fucking hell, that is depressing, especially since in a world of privatized healthcare, it's not particularly fantastical. Nia convinces Barbathrix to give her some more time with her patients, and he says he will return at nightfall. Given the state that they are in, it seems very unlikely that she will be able to save them. Fedra arrives and asks to speak with Nia, and as the two go off to a quiet corner, Garan notices a small mouse, an unusual sight here in Ruyad Col where nothing thrives. The mouse is trying to reach its hole up in the ceiling, and Garan lifts it up there, noticing as he does so a small root growing out of the stonework, something that he hasn't seen in a century. Garan lays some crumbs out for the mice, who come out of their hole to nibble on it, and a flea jumps from one of the mice onto Garan and bites him, and then they all begin skittering about the room and the fleas begin to bite the patients. As Garan looks at the mice, he can see a green shine to their eyes. These natural things are clearly the domain of the Wild Mother, the prime deity of the wilderness and the sea. We got to meet the Wild Mother in Downfall when she was portrayed by Taliesin Jaffe, and he portrayed her in a rather violent and almost cold way, just as nature can be violent and unfeeling and chaotic. And I really loved how Brennan sort of riffed on Taliesin's portrayal, as well as that idea of her working her magic through, the small things, the vermin, the bugs, the weeds.
There are always holes for life to find.
You are so wise.
I have seen more than a small tree should.
They will know how little of you it takes to break a wall.
Meanwhile, Fedra feels a Nia about the dragonborn caravan and asks for her help, and she immediately agrees, setting off to the Hall of Parting. Fedra asks Garan what he knows about the oubliettes, and since he has been here so long, he actually helped build some of them. He tells her that there are a few spots that are weak and could be broken. This felt like a little glimmer of hope from Garan that he would risk sharing this information, but also it could harken back to a time when a younger Garan did feel more hope, when he built these walls and tried to leave room for others to escape. Nia arrives at the Halls of Parting and halts the dragonborn carriage, telling Captain Ruscott that one of the prisoners is infected by something that can spread through breath. A golden Asimar called Satal comes over and orders that the carriage be opened, asking who interacted with Crocus. She tells the captain to remove Crocus, Ero, Barthas, and Coswald thinking quickly, tells her that the mother and children could be infected too. Satal orders for the Dragonborn to be taken to the oubliettes, but Nia attempts to intervene, saying she could heal them so they can still be sent to the Scaled Tyrant.
My sweet daughter, you are simply too valuable to be left near a disease this contagious. And if you tell me to wait again, I'll pull your eyes out of your head. The Strife Emperor wishes for you to live in the truth of his dominion. If you ever speak to me out of turn again, I'll find out everyone you've ever cared for and hurt them till they're dead.
He doesn't say anything.
Whenever I see Brennan play bad guys, I am just so happy that he is one of the good guys. Like, for real, he is a terrifying bad guy. Nia whispers to Crocus that Fedra is coming as the group are taken to the Wandering Walls. Later that evening, Fedra ascends to the top of the Steel Keep to serve the guests at dinner. The room is appointed beautifully with candlelight and musicians, luxury happening right over the misery and poverty in the prison below. At the table are Asmog, Barbathrix, Lady Cyrolia, a scorpion centaur called the Iron Scorpion, someone called Misfear the Aching Prince, and a human lord and lady with their child who is about 9 years old. Fedra serves dinner and then steps to the side, attempting to blend in and be invisible so she can listen in on the conversation. The group discuss the war, and despite the propaganda set in the pit, it is not going well for the betrayers. The Spider Queen, the Crawling King, and the Cloaked Serpent have been banished, and the Ruiner has been wounded by the Archheart, who shot out one of his eyes. This became a defining moment for the Ruiner, whose symbol of worship later became a single bloody eye. The blood that fell from the Ruiner's eye imbued his orcish forces with supernatural strength, leading to a superstition and belief that all orcs are cursed with this evil of the Ruiner. The Iron Scorpion posits that they may need to look to freeing the betrayers that have been banished, but the Strife Emperor's followers believe that they should attempt to win the war without them, so that the spoils do not need to be shared amongst too many gods. This next section there involves some fictional harm to children, so skip to this timestamp if you don't want to hear it. As they are talking, the child at the table has been fidgeting, and so his father takes a dagger and stabs it into his hand. What the fuck? As the dinner winds up and the guests leave, the child is left still with the dagger stuck through his hand and into the table, and he tries to catch the eye of Fedra, who doesn't meet his gaze.
You hear a little raspy voice go, "It's okay. I wouldn't want to help me either."
Oh no. Oh no. Feature Jesus. Okay. That definitely.
Gang, it's the height of the calamity, and it's so bad.
So bad.
So bad here.
I pour a tiny bit of wine in his glass, and I say, it's the best I can do, kid.
You walk from the table, the best I can do, kid. These are the decisions that those that will survive calamity have to make.
Oh, it's really bad here. Oh, this certainly shows Fedra's pragmatism, cynicism. I don't know. I don't think Garan or Nia would have reacted in the same way, but Fedra knows that there isn't really anything she can do, and it would only endanger her own to interfere on behalf of this kid. Oh, that's rough. Over at the mop, Garan looks out and sees a flock of dark birds in the sky, an uncommon sight, before he is taken over by a feeling of hot nausea. Looking to the west, he sees something bright and red walking across the land.
First, you think it's a storm cloud or a cyclone. It's at the edge of the horizon. And then you realize that you need to turn your eyes and get underneath cover as fast as you can. You've lived a long time, but you've heard of the unfortunate few that have witnessed the gods in the flesh. There in the smoke, like a sandstorm rolling across a desert, you feel the presence of the Strife Emperor moving upon the land.
Garan quickly heads back to the mop to try and find safety. Meanwhile, Nia has been following the dragonborns until they arrive at the Wandering Walls, a small crawl space between the inner and the outer stone of the walls of the keep. Legend says that there is a way out of its maze-like hallways, but it is much more likely that you will get stuck, or horrifyingly, you will step into a space where the floor just gives out and you slide down into the cavernous voids below. No thank you. The Dragonborn are pushed behind the gate of a small antechamber which leads into the wall, and Nia leaves, hoping that Fedra will be able to get them out. As they start to head into the walls, Crocus realizes that he is too big even to fit inside, and the group tries to work out what to do. Back at the mop, Nia, Fedra and Garan catch up, with Garan telling the others that they don't have much time as the Strife Emperor is on his way. Nia thinks they can use this to their advantage though, since all the guards will likely be distracted by his arrival. As they talk, they hear the sounds of war drums and cheering from within the keep, readying to receive their god. Garan tells the others he knows of a place where he could take out some of the stonework, and they quickly head off. As they do, Nia picks up some medical supplies and a hidden away piece of contraband, a locket which contains a portrait of her sister Liana, someone she hasn't seen in a long time but she still believes is out there somewhere. When she picks up the locket, it is glowing, something that has never happened before, so she opens it.
You cannot see the beautiful portrait of your sister's face. You have to believe that she's still out there somewhere. You just see pure light, and the pure light flitters and begins to disperse, revealing the portrait underneath it as a small cloud, smaller than gnats, of glowing, minuscule fireflies depart, one of them biting you on the throat right above the collarbone.
After the bite of this bug, Nia is under a bless spell, a working of the Wild Mother, or of her sister, or of both. Garan leads them to a weak spot in the Wandering Walls, and Fedra keeps watch as he begins to use his stoneworking tools to crack it open, making a gap for them to go through. There is a thud as the stone slides into the space beyond, and Nia whistles down the hallway to Arrow and Crocus. Nia and Garan climb into the gap, but as Nia moves through the hallway, the floor gives way and she begins to slide down. Arrow rushes forward and grabs her as Garan does the same from behind, and they pull her back to solid ground. A guard spots Fedra and begins firing at her, so she ducks into the hole as well, and when the guard looks in, Garan smashes him with his stone hammer and essentially blocks up the hole with his body. As they start making their way back to Crocus and the others through the wall, they hear a huge booming and cracking sound, and black thorns and roots begin to rapidly grow towards them. Nia's locket begins to glow again, and the chamber is filled with fireflies that glow, protecting the group from the roots. There is another thunderous blast, and they are all knocked prone. Garan can sense that one of the towers from the keep has been pulled from the stone and the ground and hurled miles away. Through the gate, they can see a horde of mice and the sounds of guards screaming. The Wild Mother has waged war on the keep. They attempt to break out of the gate, with Arrow breathing fire on the lock and Garan smashing it, but they are unable to break it, being just one hit point off. So frustrating. They are trapped in there for hours, and it is eerily silent. Eventually, Ero recovers his breath weapon and they are able to try again, finally getting the gate smashed open. Outside, the keep is in ruins and it is almost unrecognizable. There is rubble everywhere and skeletons picked clean and briar roots. They find a way up and out of the destroyed keep and look out across the landscape where there are clear signs of a battle between the gods. There are corpses of huge beasts like 30-foot bears and prehistoric creatures. There is an 80-foot tall metallic greave, a piece of armor left behind by the Strife Lord. There is also a blackened shadow of Asmog who was incinerated when he finally saw the sunrise. They begin to search for survivors and supplies, and Brennan puts this down to a dice roll with a DC of 10, 15, or 20. As Fedra and Crocus search for the other roaches, they roll a 6 and find no one. Garan notices that there are many footprints heading northeast out of the keep, and searching through the rubble finds an old halfling man called Starian Fiddleflash and a bugbear called Gond Golfsome. Meanwhile, Ero is looking for his belongings, particularly a map that he's been working on for years of Guisar, which is the continent that we know in present-day Exandria as Taldore. He rolls out the map to check that it is safe, and one of the Wild Mother's fireflies alights on a spot on the map at the base of the Storm Point Mountains, where Ero knows there is a safe pass as he has travelled there before many times with someone called Danaea. Nia finds her belongings and some first aid supplies from the mob, as well as some wine and cheese left in the larder for the fancy feast. As the group gather and ponder their next steps, Ero insists that they travel away from the main roads and avoid people as much as possible. And most of the group agrees on the basis that, more people means more mouths to feed and more people who could possibly, betray or murder them for food or supplies. Garan, though, argues against this.
I know many of those prisoners. I've listened to them talk. They have more diverse and effective skills than just cutting stone. Many are foragers, farmers.
What is there to forage? Looking at this blasted landscape, what is there to farm?
Nia says that those that are here should stick together, including the survivors that Garan found and the other dragonborns, but they should avoid others. Garan reluctantly agrees, but says he won't leave behind any young ones. It was really interesting seeing all the characters' viewpoints in this moment. We don't know a huge amount about Ero yet, but he has clearly spent a lifetime on the road and has probably seen what people can do when they are in the wilderness and are desperate and hungry. Fedra too is a realist and also has the Wanderer feat, possibly pointing to a life on the road as well. She definitely seems like the kind of person who is used to scrabbling things together to survive and only looking out for those closest to her. Crocus is still a bit of a closed book at this moment, but he's definitely quite young and he clearly looks to Fedra for guidance. Nia is the one who surprised me, as I thought maybe she might be one to seek out others, but working at the MOP, she's probably had to face some hard choices like this one as well. Garen's little vision gave us a peek into his life in the before times, and clearly family and community were integral to him, so I'm really not surprised that he would want to find other people. And, I think in those kind of situations, it is really, human nature, but it's person nature to try and find other people. And so, gathering themselves, the group begin to trudge north, and Brennan has them roll survival checks. It is rough out here as they move through this forest of dead trees, and they do not roll well. They are gaining levels of exhaustion day by day, and Ero does his best to help with some magic, using Goodberry to provide a small amount of sustenance and produce flame to start some small fires, but they are unable to find any food or water, and Starian tells the children not to worry because there is this thing called rain, and surely it will come soon. On the 6th day, they finally pass their survival checks and find a fallen deer, so they have some food, but they desperately need water. Nia realizes that all the trees have sucked up the water and they need to go out into the open, so that night she goes to the edge of the forest, accompanied by Starian, who, despite his frail nature, insists on coming. They reach the edge of the forest and it's so dark that they just can't see the landscape. Nia looks to Starian and realizes that she is looking at someone who is in their last moments.
He's going to hold his hands so tight and remember his face. Every wrinkle. She doesn't know if she's ever going to see him again.
You see, he looks at the walk back to the fire and goes, "Do you think there might be water closer by? I just want to feel it again with my hand. It's been a long time since I felt the rain."
Nia goes into her pocket and pulls out the locket, and opens it, and like leans in to show Starian, and she goes, "If the rain never comes, we make our own. This is my rain. Go find yours."
Starian, he takes a step, holds his side, gets down on one knee, lies down on the ground, looks up and meets your gaze for a moment. I'll find it. Maybe it's waiting there, on the other side. The light leaves.
Nia holds her locket and begins to pray, and as she does so, rain softly begins to fall, rain that has fallen too late for Starian. The others join Nia and they see a huge figure walking across the landscape, a prime deity, the Storm Father. He looks to the group and looks directly at Crocus, asking him if he is exhausted for carrying himself or carrying others. Crocus gestures to the children and the Storm Lord says, "That is what strength is for." The Storm Lord then makes a pronouncement.
We are leaving. Forever.
Okay.
You witness the final miracles. You will need to be strong. You will need to stand and lift up those who cannot lift themselves. Our age of doing so is at an end. I hope you will be strong.
A mist kicks up, and within it, a thick leather belt appears with 2 clasps of dragon ivory on the buckle. Crocus picks it up as the Stormfather walks into the distance. This belt is very likely a vestige of Divergence, which are magic items that were created by the gods in the final days of the Calamity. The vestiges are unique in that they can be advanced into an awakened or an exalted state, unlocking more powers and benefits. This one is called the Storm Girdle, and it appears in the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. It is a very powerful item to give to a level 0 NPC. It grants the wearer 21 strength and the ability to activate a storm avatar once per day. But as it looks like Divergence is going to follow the story of some everyday heroes, I think it's a really fun and interesting story beat that this vestige was given to this character. That is where the episode ends, and we'll have to see what happens next week. I'm hoping that we'll learn some more of the characters' backstories. We know that a few of them have family somewhere out there that they're hoping to find. I'm also really keen to learn more about some of the locations in Tal'Dorei or Gorsar that we don't know very much about. I would love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments about what you think is going to happen, and if you want to revisit another Brennan Lee Mulligan tearjerker, may I recommend my EXU Calamity breakdowns. That's all for now, and I'll see you soon. Bye!